Let's see what steps are needed for building a youth policy strategy. First, get familiar with the already existing youth strategy, if there is one. Are there any lessons learned from its formulation and implementation? Have its impacts and further needs been evaluated? Next, think of what your overall vision of young people is. The vision is reflected in a political statement. It should be formulated in dialogue with everyone concerned. It should be based on sound knowledge of the situation of young people. For example, all young people are active citizens and have access to the labor market. Then, define the overall long-term goal that the National Youth Strategy will help to achieve. You need one goal for your strategy, which should be concrete and achievable, formulated as one comprehensive statement. For example, the strategy aims at offering young people, especially from rural areas and experiencing disadvantage, opportunities for developing their citizenship and labor market skills. After this, you define the objectives. These are the concrete purposes for which the strategy is needed. They include the prioritized policy areas for the youth strategy, with 1 or 2 objectives for each priority policy area. Objectives should be formulated as a desired end and not as a process. They should also specify the target group and be directly related to the goal. They should respond to the needs of young people and be realistic and achievable within the strategy. For example, in the area of active citizenship, increase youth work provision for young people living in the rural areas. Offer young people living in disadvantaged areas opportunities for volunteering in civil society organizations. Once the objectives are defined, you can think about outcomes, so concrete results you want to achieve with this strategy. They are about the changes that happen when the objectives are realized. There may be several outcomes for each objective. Each outcome should be fully achievable within the strategy and directly linked to at least one of the objectives. For example, thanks to the strategy, young people living in rural areas got access to participative youth work activities. Indicators should be set to measure your success in achieving the outcomes. Set up your indicators before you identify activities. This will help orientate the activities necessary for your strategy. Indicators should be based on facts, not subjective opinions, and on data that you can actually obtain. The more accurate your indicators, the easier it will be to check the progress of your strategy. For example, the number of young people living in rural areas involved in youth work. Only then you define which activities you want to carry out to achieve each indicator. There should be at least one activity per indicator. The strategy should provide an overview of activities needed. For example, youth activities in youth centers in rural areas and training their staff for supporting young people's participation. Don't forget to define your baseline data. What is the reality on the ground at the moment the strategy starts to be implemented? This is what the baseline data will tell you. Baseline data is contained in statistics and research on young people. If it does not exist, you may need to carry out additional research or conduct a survey among stakeholders. Try to have the baseline data available for each indicator so that we can measure their impact later. We hope this helps clarify things to keep in mind when working on a youth strategy.